everyone to this course preview webcast for an upcoming library journal course called Code Your Library. I am Carmen Scheidel. I'm your host for today, and I'm a general course advisor here at Library Journal. I'm also the CEO of EdMaker, which is a company that focuses on launching and running online learning programs like the one you're witnessing today. My special guest here today is Matt Ennis, technology editor at Library Journal, and he is the mastermind behind this speaker program for Code Your Library. So hello, Matt.
Hi, Carmen. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. So here's how things will work today. We are here to tell you a little bit about this new library journal course that we've been building and that launches in April. And we'll tell you a little bit about it. We'll take any questions. And we want to be resources to you if you have general questions about starting a coding program at your library. So at any point, you can use the chat to say hi and let us know your questions. Even if your question is off topic, go ahead and put it in the chat because we will queue those up, and then when we're ready to take them, we will do it. So let us know how you're doing in the chat if you haven't said hello and where you're logging in from. We are very excited to have such a wide range of attendees with us today. So before we begin, I am going to tell you a little bit about this course that we've been building called Code Your Library. So this is a 4-week course that starts April 20th and it runs through mid-May. And the structure is a little bit like today's webcast in a sense. Each week, attendees check into these live meetings where we have guest speakers, keynotes, tools providers, all kinds of speakers who join us. And you are welcome to join the sessions live, join in the chat, and participate in that way. If you miss the session, you can always catch a recording because we will always record it. But the sessions are inspiring. They're really like attending conference keynotes. There's always a presentation. There are slides you can download. We provide case studies, tools, resources, all kinds of fun things. And our alumni from the Maker Workshop, which is another course that focuses on creating programs that are related to making, they can tell you. They're here in the chat. So if you have questions, you can also ask those course participants if for their point of view. So those are the weekly meetings. There will be 4 of those throughout the course. And then I think the real fun comes in the actual work that gets done. So I've always loved the idea of a conference that you can go and be inspired by luminaries in a field. But what happens when you go to a conference is you don't necessarily get work done. Instead, you have business cards and a lot of ideas. But I've always thought that was a problem, that instead it's so much better if you can be inspired, but also create meaningful work for yourself. And so that's the concept for this course and all of the courses that we run at Library Journal. So throughout the 4+ weeks of the course, you will work on building out tech-oriented programs for your library. And these are not bogus assignments. These are essentially, we are challenging you to build out your plans and to work on them. And the way you do it is you work on your plan, you bit by bit, week by week, and you field test some ideas, you gather the inspiration from the keynote sessions and integrate those as much as possible. And then you post your plan to a small group of peers that we connect you with within the course. and you have a course facilitator slash instructor who is a tech librarian who will guide you and give you personal feedback. So you can see in this little image at the bottom of this slide, that's essentially what this looks like. This is a student who posted an assignment and then got feedback from her facilitator. And then we hope that there's also group discussion. And the weekly assignments that we have planned are really focused on pushing you to define your goals, your budget, your ideas for any tech-oriented programs. I'm saying tech-oriented with regard to this class because it doesn't strictly have to be a coding program. Coding is certainly a part of it, but this could be any type of tech-oriented program. So that's what we mean. So let me pause a second. That was the overall concept for the course. Do you have any questions about that before we take a look at the speaker roster? Let's just pause a second and see. So go ahead and enter your questions if you have them, and we'll come back to them. Let's take a look at the roster of speakers. So Matt, can you tell us a little bit about what you had in mind when you were starting to think about people who would make for great keynote sessions for this course?
Well, I think one of the key concepts that we started out with was that this isn't just about necessarily training people for the next wave of jobs or the next generation of jobs or something like that, or having people learn how to be computer programmers at the library. It's also about sort of the next frontier in digital literacy, and it's my belief that in the coming years, knowing a little bit about coding, being able to sort of speak that language is going to be a key skill. You may not be a Python programmer, but if you know a little bit about Python, you can talk to people who know the language. And that's just one example. But with the speakers, with this first week, I'm really excited about Brooke Osborne. People on the call may be familiar, for example, with code.org. They're a nonprofit sort of dedicated to expanding computer science coursework in schools, and also increasing participation by women and underrepresented students of color in the tech field. And Brooke is great. Prior to working with code.org, she taught a robotics course at Duke University. She's published on topics including computer science outreach, robotics, computer science principles. And she's been key to outreach efforts and curriculum development with code.org. And Jennifer Korber, she's worked with us a lot. She's been speaking and writing on emerging technologies, including a recent publication from Roman and Littlefield, Emerging Technologies, a primer for librarians. And what we're hoping to do with this first session is sort of set the table for the course, not just discussing current trends, but also introducing key concepts. What do you need to know? What are your patrons going to be interested in knowing if you set up a program? What are some potential partner organizations that you can work with? What are some online resources that people need to be familiar with to get up to speed with the basics?
Yes, and in this particular session that we're starting with, it's actually we have our kind of big keynote in week 2. We wanted in week 1 to start off with some of the nuts and bolts resources. Where are the sites that you can go if you're not a coder, if you are new to technology, to understand how to learn the basics? And again, this course is not focused on teaching you, the librarian, how to code. It is instead much broader. It is designed to expose you to all of the rich resources that you can use to inform your programming ideas that are focused on technology and coding, and see enough where you start to see trends and overlapping ideas and learn what will be most relevant to your audience, whether it's a group of kids or a range at public libraries of kids to adults. So let's pause a second and answer a couple of these questions. So Shayna Seawalt is saying, I'm a graduate student soon to be in a school library. Can I still benefit from the program development piece? I'm not sure if I will have access to a library for the field testing that was mentioned. I'm so glad you asked that. The field testing is something even librarians in schools are always very concerned about the field testing, because how do they, if they're on spring break, how do they field test that week? Or, or if it's summer break, how do they do it? And here's our concept for the field testing. We challenge you to come up with ideas, like right off the bat, in your heart, what do you know is needed in your library, or in your case, since you don't, I'm assuming you don't have a job yet. Imagine how this course could help you. You could think about what would be useful in school related to creating a coding program for kids, let's say, and you would zero in on one aspect of it, come up with that idea, meaning in 10 minutes, come up with the idea, flesh it out, write it, and then find a group of users that you could test it on. So it doesn't have to be kids from a library. It could be kids in your family, or someone in that user demographic who can give you real feedback on it that you can use to shape that idea. So there's a lot of flexibility there, and we have found that this is an essential part of the course that people really benefit from. And again, it doesn't matter if your user test group is people you find on the street, or people from your office, or whatever it is. Like, you can really, what we're trying to do is to get you to take your ideas and bounce them off other people who are a relevant sample group. But Shayna, I would say in your case, this is so interesting because you could develop some programming ideas that you could use in a job interview. So you could basically build out, you pick a demographic, think about a job opening that you want to go after, develop a program for that library. And then in your job interview, say, I did this course and this is what I came up with. I mean, that would be an amazing, tangible thing. And Gita Denning is saying, does this course lend itself more to public libraries and librarians, or there will be a way to connect with the group to discuss how this looks in the school library, especially middle school? So Gita, it is a mix of both. So we, in the programming of this offering, we have a mix of people whose services are designed for schools versus public librarians. Like, we intentionally mix it up, and we find that there is an overlap, and that sometimes people from school libraries will feel like, oh, this doesn't really apply to me. And in fact, after the session, it does, because the creative ideas really can apply anywhere. But what we try to do in this course is, if you are a school librarian, we try to group you in a small working group with other school librarians, and we try to make sure that your small group facilitator comes from a school library. And we actually have, some of our facilitators. One, for instance, that I'm thinking of is named Megan Emery, and she creates teen programs at a public library. So she would be an amazing resource for you, even though she's doing it for a public library. So we definitely are sensitive to that, and we've found that school librarians like being with school librarians, and public librarians like being with public librarians. So we segment the groups that way as much as possible. And let's see. Yeah, keep those questions coming. They're a lot of fun. So Matt, shall we take a look at week 2 and what's in store in our big keynote week? Go there.
Sure, and actually this might partially answer Gita's question as well. I am thrilled about these week 2 speakers, and thanks again, Carmen, for. I mean, I sort of we knew that we wanted to do at least 1 week on, teaching coding to kids, because a lot of library programs, start young, or they have a component or classes that are specifically designed for kids. And, I threw out Mitchell Resnick's name, and you went and got him. I mean, this is great. Um, but basically, if your library has been making any efforts to start coding courses for young kids, you're probably familiar with a program called Scratch. It's free visual programming language that sort of helps kids learn fundamentals of computer programming by creating their own games and stories with these little cartoon sprites. Um, and they've recently updated it so that you can share with others on the web. It's very popular. And Mitchell Resnick and Natalie Rusk are the creators and developers of Scratch at MIT. Natalie also founded the Computer Clubhouse after school program about 20 years ago, and they've got 100 sites in 20 countries. Mitchell led the development of the technology that inspired the Lego Mindstorms robotics kits for kids. I mean, these are, if you're interested at all in creating programming for kids, you have to hear these two. I mean, I'm very excited about this session.
Yes, we are too. So Mitchell Resnick is, very well known, and he wanted to co-present with Natalie Rusk as a way to really show the hands-on work that they are doing, and they're just phenomenal speakers, and I think it's so much fun when in a course like this you have a chance to connect personally with speakers of this caliber. Let's pause just a second and take a question from Ben Shaw. Ben said, will this course help organize full courses or mostly one-off programs? So Ben, do you mean, tell us a little bit more about you. Are you a school librarian developing, tell us a little bit more about what you have in mind, and I would be happy to answer that question. But essentially, there's a lot of flexibility in the assignments. We say this very openly. We create the structure of the assignments, and we encourage you to interpret them as creatively as you would like. Because the goal, again, is not to have you complete a list of tasks. Our goal is to have you come out of this class with a fully fleshed out program that meets your needs. So for some people, we had an example earlier of Shayna, who is on the job market and just entering the work world. So she could use the course in that way to create something that she could use in a job interview. If you are a public librarian who currently organizes a series of one-off coding programs but would like to develop something that ties everything together, perfect. So you would adapt your assignments that way. And actually, to be honest, the current assignment structure is that in week one, each participant outlines their goal overall, their goals for the course, as well as the budget they think that they'll be working with, and then they build out a list of programs. So you could absolutely use it in that way, and I think, and because you already offer one-off programs, you would have all of the information about what works, and you could integrate that into your planning. So Deb Fink is saying, I love the idea of this, but I'm concerned about the time. Approximately how much time, not including the course, would it take to complete the assignments? It's such a busy time of year for us. That's absolutely an issue that comes up, Deb, so thank you for mentioning it. And again, I would say this. So the more that someone can put into the course, the more that they will get out of it. We don't mandate anything. I mean, if some people tune into the live sessions and don't do any of the homework. We don't recommend that because it's missing out on a key part of it. But we encourage people to carve out about 3 hours per week to devote to the course. So that would be attending the live sessions, participating in group discussions on the back end. Those go on 24/7, and focusing on the work. That homework piece of it is the variable one. If you wanted to devote 10 hours to it, you certainly could. Or if you have 30 minutes, then you could devote that. There's no pressure one way or another. What I really recommend is that you think of the course not as something that's separate from your work, but you basically in your work day let the course help you accomplish goals that you want to accomplish anyway. So if you had a day in or an hour each day in your school day, or a certain amount of time each week if you're a public librarian, carve out that time that you would use to work on creating new programming ideas and use it as a part of the course. So do you know what I mean? Like integrate the two. And if anything in the course feels disconnected from your work, don't do it. I mean, we say that very, very openly. The goal here is to have you uh, reach your goals for creating very innovative programming. And within the span of the course, you have access to amazing people who can help guide you. So in addition to speakers like Mitchell Resnick, you will have access to your group facilitator, who is essentially a teacher, who a librarian who's guiding this group, who will be there to give you feedback on your ideas, tell you if something is a gap, or even to guide you in terms of resources that you might not have known about. So let's see. So we answered Deb's question. Sharon's saying, I'm a school librarian and I'm teaching coding skills as part of my library curriculum. I'm sorry, Sharon, was that in reference to a question before? Let me know if it was. And Emily is saying, you have possibly already addressed this. Is there a certain age range that these types of coding and technology programs are focused on? I would say no. We try to expose you to a range of ideas and programs and offerings, and then you could focus it on whatever demographic group that you want to work with. I coding for kids can start very early, and we just hosted a session with Wonder Workshop. They have Dash and Dot, those programmable robots. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? And they said that the starting age for Dash and Dot is about third grade. So so those are little cute robots that can be programmed. It's a way to teach kids coding in a fun way. I'm sure there are things you could do for first and second grade as well, but somewhere in grade school, I would say, is the beginning.
I would second that. I mean, most of the programs that I've seen, I'm starting to see some programs that are targeted at adults, like career changers, learning more advanced languages, and we will deal with that in week 4. A lot of the programs that are currently getting started, though, I think are directed more in the age 8 to teen range, and they particularly seem popular with teenagers. So, yeah, I would agree with that.
Sorry, I'm typing and it's hard to talk and type. So Shayna was saying, how long will participants have access to the course content and recorded sessions? Definitely throughout the course, plus an additional month. So we leave the online classroom open for a month after the final live meeting. So you have access to it for a while. After that, you get access to the Commons, which is an alumni community for Library Journal, and we post a lot of resources and recordings there as well. I'm loving all of these questions. So let's see. So Sharon is saying, how do I balance teaching coding skills and library skills? I don't know. Matt, can you help out, or can somebody else who's done this help out? Did you see the question? So Sharon is saying, how do I balance teaching coding skills and library skills?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Would that be for patrons teaching coding skills and sort of integrating, say, research skills, or is that more for Sharon, would you mind clarifying?
And while that's happening, let's take a look at week 3. So we have 3 speakers this week. What can you tell us about the week 3 session?
Well, one of the negative aspects of the tech field right now is it's, has sort of a earned reputation as a, sort of a boys club. It's, mostly white men. There have been a lot of efforts, including by code.org, Brooke speaking in week 1, that are directed at diversity and encouraging people, to sort of, I think that a lot of times there's a barrier with people that are new to a topic. They sort of feel like this isn't for me, or I'm going to have trouble understanding this. And basically, these are organizations that are focused on outreach to, minority groups or to young girls. And sort of to encourage, to develop programs that encourage and sort of open up the library to these groups. So we'll have Kim Wilkins from Tech Girls, Alberto Tornes from All Star Code, Christopher Harris. He's worked with, he's a longtime contributor to School Library Journal. He's also a director of a school library system in Western New York, and he's got a consulting group called Play Play Learn. But yeah, this week will be all about sort of encouraging minorities and groups that might not be aware that there's opportunities in technology or coding to develop programs around that.
Excellent. We know that that issue comes up a lot for people both at school libraries and public libraries. Like, how do you engage new kids or new groups of adults or people of any age in a program when you have, how do you extend the teaching? And so this session focuses on that, and we have 3 speakers from various organizations really talking about coding and getting kids and adults to think about both careers and opportunities to learn. And I've seen this in past sessions that we've hosted, where sometimes a way to get girls, for instance, interested in a coding club is simply to change the name, or to use simple strategies to broaden your program to a larger group. So we wanted to focus on it here, and we have really 3 great speakers who will share ideas and strategies for that. And then week 4, we have 2 speakers, Nate Stone and Chad Sansing. What can you tell us about them, Matt, and what they'll be talking about?
Well, what they'll be talking about is sort of taking things to the next level. Most libraries for years have offered courses and things like, learning, basic computer courses, like how to use a computer, how to use the internet, how to use Word, how to write your resume. Courses like that. So to some extent, libraries have been involved in computer education for a while. But what Nate and Chad will be talking about is sort of more advanced coding classes, like how do you start teaching Python, for example, or how do you teach a 4-part course on designing a website, or HTML, or CSS, incorporating all those different things into a single multi-part course. One of the reasons that I really like Denver for and Nate specifically as a speaker for this is that Denver's program is just getting off the ground. There's a handful of really well-developed curricula, or libraries with really well-developed curricula around coding, Orange County in Florida, for example, but they've taken like 15 years to get to where they are with their program. At Denver, the Idea Lab and the Community Technology Center, they really have they've just been getting started with all this, and it's kind of cool to see how they're developing things on the fly. For example, I talked in January to a librarian, Cody Yantis, at Denver, and they had a lot of people that had been involved with their web design courses asking for courses in Python, and nobody at the library knew how, they were like, how are we going to teach this? So Cody went and learned Python along with a group of students, and it turned out to be this great, program. And I think that it's a good example of innovative ways that libraries, because I know this is intimidating to libraries as well. I mean, how do I get started with the program? Are we going to have the resources? Are we going to have the funding? And what's going on in Denver is really exciting in the sense that they're, either learning along with patrons, or they're partnering with local tech companies to bring in guest speakers. It's, really cool stuff. And I think that it'll bring a lot of ideas in terms of like how to develop a program on a budget. And Chad Sansing, he's worked with LJ and SLJ for a while too, and he's now with the Mozilla Foundation as their curriculum developer for web literacy. So Mozilla is, if you're not familiar, they're the developer of like Firefox and Thunderbird. He'll be great. He sort of trains the trainers, trains educators in web literacy and teaching coding. So this will be a great course for people that are interested in developing more advanced type content for their patrons.
Excellent. Let me grab the link for the Mozilla Foundation too, and you can learn a little bit more about that. We had a question come in from Beth, which was, sorry, she said, question on the nuts and bolts of offering coding programming to people who cannot afford their own computers. How to obtain needed software and deciding on file storage options. Will these kinds of challenges be addressed in the class? Answer, yes, in this sense. So what we would do is, as a part of your weekly assignment, we would have you isolate that as a challenge for you and strategize on ways to solve it. So because that would be unique to your situation, Beth, we would have you talk to the decision makers and see what's possible, see what equipment you do have access to, and then have you build a program around that. You could even focus some time on trying to get a grant or raising money, depending. I don't remember if you're at a public library or a school library, but we would basically have you focus on that. This is what I mean about the assignment portion of it. The assignments are a structure, and they're intentionally created to be adaptable to an individual person's needs. So because you flagged this as an issue, I would imagine that it's an issue for a lot of librarians, and we would have you troubleshoot it within the class for yourself, and then we would encourage other people to do the same. But what we try to do is surface these trouble spots, have individuals bring them up and then solve them with help and resources. And one way that we do that, so there's the small group work. There are also ongoing discussions among everyone in the course. So you could always post this dilemma, Beth, like, how do we solve for this? And I would imagine that there are librarians who would say, this is how we did it at my school, or this is how we did it at my public library. And we've seen this in the past at the Maker Workshop, and it really, really works. And I think in part because librarians are so generous about sharing their experiences and pointing people towards resources. So,
and in terms of local,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking in terms of there. Some librarians have expressed reservations about privacy issues involved with these, but I mean Chromebooks are becoming a very popular budget option, both for libraries that have limited budgets to offer new workstations, for example, and to patrons that might not be able to afford like a full-fledged laptop. I mean, I think you can buy one under $200, and I know that that's still out of reach for a lot of people that might be interested in this stuff. But I mean, it's fortunately costs are coming down. So
yeah, I feel like this dilemma of having a really tight budget is something that most every librarian connects with, and so they have creative solutions. I've seen it time and again, And people are very reassured by that because it's sort of not fun to hear about examples of amazing programs that people have created with really big budgets. Like it's interesting, but it's not applicable to a lot of people. So we really try to address that. We try to give a little taste of everything in the program itself. So just I want to wrap up the overview of the class experience a little bit, and then we'll continue to take questions. These are amazing questions that you guys have. Just to show you the span of what's available in the online classroom experience. So like I said, you will gather in a place like this each week for the live meetings, but then the online classroom, the activity goes on throughout the week. So if you ever want to catch up on your homework or the discussion forums or looking at resource lists, you can do it at night, any time of day, on the weekend, on your own time, whenever you can squeeze it in. So we encourage that. The classroom experience, if you've never taken an online class, this is one that's focused on real human interaction. That happens on discussion boards. It happens in the homework groups with the posting of homework assignments. You get personalized feedback. We lost Matt a second, but he'll be right back. There is small group mentoring where you will make connections with your peer group. There is constant resource sharing because the librarians are amazing at sharing so many resources. We also prepare a lot of resources for you. And then you get a chance to really build out your peer community of professional librarians from across the country. And I say across the country, we have most participants are from the US or Canada. We occasionally have someone beyond that, but it's rare. But it's in terms of the connections that are made, it's phenomenal.